Good morning. Senator Berger and I are just trying to do our best through communications directly with the governor and through the governor's office to urge her to let the budget become law. And there's three ways that the governor can allow that to happen. One is to simply sign the budget and move forward so that we can fund badly needed classroom, teacher funding, funding for Medicaid, and a number of other areas within the state. The governor can simply let it pass into law without signing it. The concern that we have with that is it's just delaying the time that the schools can have, or that the local governments, the counties, the towns, the LEAs, the education units will have certainty about their budget next year, or she can veto it and send it back to us as quickly as possible so that we can take up the veto vote. We really urge her to do it because the towns and the counties, the education systems, in just a couple of days are going to begin a new fiscal year. And they're going to have to make worst case assumptions about their budget if they are not able to come in with a budget that has a substantial increase in funding for this year. And I know that there's some confusion about the increased spending in this budget. And I think it's important for everyone to know that what we've tried to do here is soften the blow of the reduction in federal funding for the EduJobs money that was coming from the federal government. We've done that by trying to put more than $250 million back into education. We're also dealing with a consistent shortfall in performance on the governor's part and HHS around Medicaid. In her tenure, that's almost $900 million in shortfall. And the governor, to her credit, did try to offer some way for us to reach a compromise, but she chose to do that by tapping into reserves that we think have to be held out there and potentially used, because if passed as prologue, they're going to come up short again. We're going to have a hole in Medicaid, and we think it's irresponsible to use that money when we know over the last 4 years that's occurred each and every budget year, most likely going to happen again. So we hope the governor will realize this is going to help schools, it's going to help Medicaid, it's going to help a lot of other areas of the state. And in the absence of this, we're going to have to go back to a budget last year that we feel like is going to make education, health and human services, a number of other areas of the state very difficult to manage their finances over the next year.
Just briefly, first thing I wanted to say is the male members of the press corps, I am particularly pleased, except for Mr. Banker, this facial hair really is greatly appreciated. So, Mark, you've got a little catching up to do, is all I would say.
I wasn't sure whether to emulate Representative Stam or not.
Just to follow up on what Speaker Tillis has just said, we asked the governor to either sign the budget, to veto the budget, or to let us know that she's not going to sign it but allow it to become law. Our local governments and people of the state need to know what direction we're going in. We can then move forward if she vetoes it with an attempt to override. We can also move forward with some legislation that has started in the Senate this morning, was in the Appropriations Committee this morning, that will provide for the federal grant the federal grant money to move forward, and then. As we've said a number of times, we do have a budget for the second year of the biennium, and I don't think, well, I know that the Speaker doesn't feel like that's the best thing. I don't feel as though it's the best thing, but if the governor decides to veto the budget and we're unable to override, it certainly will be the second year of the budget. So we are willing to work with the governor on a number of things, but we do not think her suggestion of taking the money from the savings reserve, which is, as has been indicated, money that would likely be needed to address problems in Medicaid, is an appropriate way to move forward. So I'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
So you guys are willing to go home, you can't override the veto instead of revising the budget to try to get those enough Democrats to come over to your side?
That's right. Make no mistake about it. We're going home next week.
What are the thoughts on the video gambling tax?
I don't think we have sufficient time to take it up. There are a lot of legitimate questions raised about it, And as part of tax reform next year, I suspect that's something that we will look at that time, but I don't see any of that moving for the remainder of this session.
The other thing, let's understand what we're talking about. If, in fact, the budget is vetoed and the governor and we're unable to override, what you're talking about is you're talking about school teachers not getting a raise. You're talking about state employees not getting a raise. You're talking about retirees not getting a cost of living adjustment. You're talking about a couple of $100 million not going to public education that would go in the budget. You're talking about a situation where we don't have a fix to the Medicaid problem. You're talking about some real problems, and so it's pretty much in her hands at this point. We would urge her to sign the budget. It is a good budget. It's a budget that addresses the needs. It's not as much as some people would like to see us spend, but the reality is we don't have the additional money to spend, and the place that she has suggested we get additional money is something that creates other problems. If we had not had the problem in Medicaid this year, we would have had another $300 million that maybe we could have used for something else. So I just think that that at this point, it's a very simple choice. She can either sign it or not sign it. We just need to know what she's going to do.